The morning sun cast long shadows across the busy marketplace of New Seoul Colony. Minho Kim wiped his hands on a dirty rag and looked up from the broken communication device he was fixing. His small repair shop sat at the corner of two busy streets, and through his window he could see humans, aliens, and traders from dozens of different worlds moving through the crowds. A loud crash made him look up. Someone had knocked over a stack of metal containers near his shop. Minho rushed outside and saw a tall, thin figure struggling to stand up. The person was clearly not human. She had pale blue skin and long, graceful limbs that marked her as one of the Valari people. "Are you hurt?" Minho asked, moving closer. The young Valari woman turned toward his voice. Her large silver eyes were beautiful, but Minho noticed something strange about them. They did not focus on him when he spoke. Instead, they seemed to look through him as if she could not see where he was standing. "I am fine," she said softly. Her voice had a musical quality that was common among her people. "I apologize for the noise. I did not sense the containers in my path." Minho realized she was blind. This surprised him greatly. The Valari were famous across the galaxy for their incredible eyesight. They worked as scouts, navigators, and lookouts for space fleets because they could see things that other species missed. A blind Valari was almost unheard of. "My name is Minho," he said gently. "Would you like to come into my shop? You can rest there for a moment." The young woman hesitated. "I do not wish to be trouble. My name is Yuna." "No trouble at all," Minho said. He carefully guided her toward his shop, being careful not to grab her arm without permission. "Watch out for the step here." Once inside, Yuna sat down on a chair near his workbench. Minho could see her more clearly now. She was probably young for her species, maybe equivalent to a human teenager. Her clothes were simple and worn, much different from the fine garments most Valari wore. "Do you live here in the colony?" Minho asked, returning to his work but keeping the conversation going. "Yes, with my grandfather," Yuna replied. "We came here 2 years ago from our homeworld." Minho sensed sadness in her voice. He had learned that most aliens who came to New Seoul Colony were either traders looking for profit or refugees running from something. The colony was on the edge of explored space, where the Galactic Council's rules were not always enforced strictly. "What brings you to this part of the market?" he asked. "I was trying to find the medical district," Yuna said. "My grandfather sent me to pick up his medicine, but I got lost. The streets here are not laid out like our cities back home." Minho knew the medical district well. His childhood friend Haeun Park ran a clinic there. "That is quite far from here. You took a wrong turn somewhere." "I take many wrong turns," Yuna said with a small, sad smile. "It is difficult to navigate when you cannot see." Minho felt his heart go out to her. He had always been good at fixing things, and seeing someone struggle with a problem made him want to help. "Have you tried any devices to help with navigation?" "There are many technologies available." Yuna shook her head. "My grandfather has taken me to many doctors and technicians. They all say the same thing. Valari neural pathways are too different from other species. The devices made for humans or other aliens do not work for us, and there are no devices made specifically for Valari who cannot see. Because..." She paused. "Because most Valari have perfect vision," Minho finished. "Yes. I am what you might call a mistake of nature." "I do not think you are a mistake," Minho said firmly. "You are just different." They talked for another hour. Minho learned that Yuna's grandfather was Elder Kale, a respected navigator who had served on many deep space missions before retiring. They had come to New Seoul Colony because it was one of the few places where a disabled Valari could live, without constant shame from their own people. When Yuna finally left to continue her journey to the medical district, Minho walked with her to make sure she found the right street. But even after she was gone, he could not stop thinking about her problem. That evening, Minho closed his shop early and went to visit Haeun at her clinic. Haeun was a doctor who had studied many different alien species. If anyone would know about Valari physiology, it would be her. "Minho, what brings you here so late?" Haeun asked when she saw him. "I need to learn about Valari biology," he said. "Specifically how their eyes and brains work." Haeun raised an eyebrow. "That is a very specific request." "What are you planning?" Minho told her about meeting Yuna. As he spoke, he could see Haeun's expression change from curiosity to concern. "Minho, I know that look," she said. "You are thinking about trying to build something to help her, are you not?" "Maybe," he admitted. The best engineers and doctors in the galaxy have tried to create vision aids for different species. Most have failed. The neural pathways that process sight are incredibly complex. But most engineers are not human, Minho said. We think differently. We solve problems in ways that other species do not expect. Heian sighed. You are stubborn just like when we were children. Fine, I will give you what information I have. But promise me you will be careful. Playing with neural interfaces is dangerous. For the next 3 days, Minho studied everything Heian could provide about Valari biology. He learned that their visual processing was far more complex than human sight. They could see multiple spectrums of light and could detect tiny movements that would be invisible to other species. He also started gathering parts. His friend Jiwan Li ran a salvage operation that bought broken technology from crashed ships and failed colonies. Jiwan did not ask too many questions about why someone needed specific parts, which made him popular with inventors and people working on questionable projects. I need quantum processing cores, Minho told Jiwan. Small ones, but powerful. Those are expensive, Jiwan replied, and hard to find. What are you building? Something that might help someone see for the first time. Jiwan studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. I have some cores from a crashed survey ship. They are damaged, but maybe you can fix them. For this kind of project, you can have them at cost. As Minho began his work, he realized he was attempting something that had never been done before. He would need to create a bridge between human technology and Valari biology. It would require all of his skill as an engineer and a lot of luck. But every time he felt like giving up, he remembered Yuna's sad smile and her quiet acceptance of her limitations. She deserved a chance to see the world around her. Late at night, working by the light of his desk lamp, Minho began building a device that would either change Yuna's life forever or fail completely. There would be no middle ground. 3 weeks had passed since Minho started working on the Visor. His shop was now filled with strange devices, broken components, and tools he had borrowed from other engineers in the colony. He had not slept well in days, and Heian had started bringing him meals to make sure he was eating. The device looked nothing like the sleek vision aids made by major corporations. It was bulky and had wires sticking out in several directions. But Minho believed it might work. He had combined human neural interface technology with quantum processors and added some modifications of his own design. The hardest part had been figuring out how to translate visual information into signals that a Valari brain could understand. Humans processed sight differently than Valari, so he could not simply copy human technology. Instead, he had created a new type of processor that could learn and adapt to whoever was wearing the device. It looks like you attached a computer to a pair of glasses, Heian said when she saw the finished prototype. That is basically what I did, Minho admitted, but this computer is very special. It will study how Yuna's brain works and then translate what the sensors see into signals she can understand. And you think this will be safe? I have tested it as much as I can without a real subject. The power levels are low, and there are safety systems built in. If anything goes wrong, it will shut down automatically. Minho had sent a message to Elder Kale asking if he and Yuna would come to his shop. He had not explained what he wanted to show them, only that he might have something that could help Yuna. When they arrived, Elder Kale looked around the messy shop with obvious disapproval. He was tall even for a Valari, with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone who had commanded respect his entire life. Yuna stayed close to him, one hand on his arm for guidance. You said you had something to show us, Elder Kale said. His voice was deep and formal. Yes, Minho replied. He picked up the visor from his workbench. I have been working on this for 3 weeks. It is a prototype device that might help Yuna see. Elder Kale looked at the crude device with skepticism. Young human, do you know how many experts have tried to help my granddaughter? Scientists from across the galaxy have told us that her condition cannot be fixed. I know, Minho said, but I am not trying to fix her condition. I am trying to work around it. He turned to Yuna. This device will not restore your natural vision. Instead, it will create a new way for your brain to understand visual information. It might be very different from how other people see. Yuna stepped forward, her hand extended. May I touch it? Minho placed the visor in her hands. She ran her fingers over the components, feeling the shape and weight. It is heavier than I expected, she said. The processors and power source add weight, but it should not be uncomfortable. Elder Kale crossed his arms. What are the risks? The device has safety systems, Minho explained. If it detects any problems, it will shut down immediately. The worst that should happen is that it simply will not work. And the best? Minho looked at Yuna. She might be able to see. After a long discussion, Elder Kale agreed to let Yuna try the device. Minho helped her put it on, adjusting the straps and making sure the sensors were positioned correctly. The visor covered her eyes completely and had a small display screen for each eye. I am turning it on now, Minho said.
Start with the lowest power setting. At first, nothing happened.
Then Yuna gasped and reached up to touch the visor. I see lights, she whispered. Tiny points of light, like stars. Those are the calibration patterns, Minho explained. The device is learning about your brain. Just relax and let it work. For 10 minutes, Yuna sat perfectly still while the visor ran its learning program. Minho watched the readings on his monitoring equipment, making small adjustments as needed. Finally, the calibration was complete. I am going to switch it to real visual input now, he said. The moment he flipped the switch, Yuna cried out, not in pain, but in wonder. I can see, she said, her voice filled with amazement. I can see you. She looked around the shop, her head moving from side to side as she took in everything around her. Tears were streaming down her face. The colors, she whispered. Are there always so many colors? Yes, Minho said, his own eyes getting wet. There are always colors. For the next hour, Yuna explored the visual world for the first time. She looked at her hands, at her grandfather's face, at the tools and devices in Minho's shop. Everything was a source of wonder. But as the hour passed, Minho began to notice something strange. Yuna was seeing things that should not have been visible. What is that glow around the power tools? She asked, pointing to Minho's equipment. Minho looked but saw nothing unusual. What kind of glow? A soft blue light. It is beautiful, but I do not understand what it is. Elder Kale moved closer to the tools Yuna was pointing at. These are electromagnetic devices. Could she be seeing their energy fields? Minho realized what had happened. The quantum processors he had used were more powerful than he had thought. Instead of just giving Yuna normal human vision, the device was letting her see across multiple spectrums of light. She could see things that were invisible to normal eyes. Grandfather, Yuna said suddenly, there are people walking in the street outside. I can see them through the wall. This was impossible. The walls of Minho's shop were made of solid metal. But when Minho looked outside, he confirmed that there were indeed people walking past. She is seeing heat signatures, he realized. The device is not just processing visible light. It is giving her enhanced vision that goes far beyond normal sight. Elder Kale stared at his granddaughter in amazement. Yuna was now looking around the room with confidence, her head turning to track movements that none of them could detect. There is a small animal in the walls, she said. Something about the size of my hand. It has a very fast heartbeat. Probably a maintenance rat, Minho said. They live in the walls and eat scraps from the market. I can see its life energy. It glows with soft yellow light. By the end of the day, it was clear that the visor had given Yuna abilities that went far beyond normal vision. She could see electromagnetic fields, heat signatures, and what she described as life energy around living beings. She could detect movement through walls and even seemed to sense quantum fluctuations in nearby electronic devices. Word of what had happened spread quickly through the colony. Within days, people were talking about the human engineer who had given a blind Valari girl the ability to see better than anyone else in the galaxy. Elder Kale was overwhelmed with pride and gratitude. You have given my granddaughter more than sight, he told Minho. You have given her a gift that surpasses what any Valari has ever possessed. But Minho was beginning to worry. He had created something far more powerful than he had intended. The device he had built was not just a medical aid. It was a technology that could change how species across the galaxy understood visual perception. As he watched Yuna explore her new abilities with joy and wonder, Minho could not shake the feeling that their celebration might be short-lived. Throughout history, whenever humans created something revolutionary, it attracted attention from people who wanted to control it. He hoped he was wrong, but deep in his heart, he knew that their problems were just beginning. News of Yuna's transformation traveled faster than Minho had expected. Within a week, reporters from 3 different news networks had visited New Sol Colony. Scientists and engineers from across the sector were sending messages asking for details about the device. Some offered to buy the technology while others wanted to study it. Minho tried to ignore most of the attention, but it was getting harder every day. His small repair shop was no longer a quiet place where he could work in peace. People stood outside hoping to catch a glimpse of Yuna or the famous Visor. Maybe we should move somewhere more private, Hyun suggested during one of her visits. This is getting out of control. Where would we go? Minho replied. And besides, Yuna likes being able to help other people understand what the device can do. It was true. Yuna had become fascinated with her new abilities and enjoyed demonstrating them. She could find lost objects by seeing their heat signatures, detect when people were lying by watching changes in their life energy, and spot problems in electronic equipment by observing their electromagnetic fields. Elder Kale had initially been proud of the attention his granddaughter was receiving, but now he was starting to worry too. Perhaps we should be more careful about who we talk to, he said to Minho. Some of the people asking questions seem more interested in the technology than in Yuna's well-being. That worry became much more serious when the sleek enforcement ship landed at the colony's main spaceport. Minho first learned about it from Jiwon Lee, who had contacts among the port workers. 4 people got off the ship, Jiwon told him. All of them human, all of them wearing expensive clothes. They did not look like traders or scientists. What did they look like? Minho asked. Military, or maybe government agents. The kind of people who carry weapons they do not want you to see. That evening, the 4 strangers visited Minho's shop. They knocked politely and waited for him to invite them in. But something about their manner made him nervous. The leader was a tall man with short black hair and cold eyes. My name is Commander Taiyang Cho, he said. These are my colleagues, Captain Soman Kang, Lieutenant Dongyan Yu, and Sergeant Nayan Shin. We represent the Galactic Council's Technology Assessment Division. Minho had never heard of that division, but the Galactic Council was the closest thing to a government that existed in their part of space. Most colonies tried to stay on their good side. What can I do for you? Minho asked. We understand you have developed some interesting new technology, Captain Kang said. She was a woman with sharp features and a voice that suggested she was used to being obeyed. We would like to learn more about it. It is just a vision aid, Minho replied. Nothing special. Lieutenant Yu, a younger man with thick glasses, laughed softly. Mr. Kim, we have reviewed the reports. Your device does not just restore vision, it enhances it beyond anything that currently exists. That makes it very special indeed. Sergeant Shin, a stocky woman with scars on her hands, looked around the shop with professional interest. You built this here? With these tools? Yes. Impressive, she said, but her tone did not sound admiring. It sounded calculating. Commander Cho stepped forward. Mr. Kim, the Galactic Council is prepared to offer you a position at our main research facility. You would have unlimited resources, the best equipment in the galaxy, and a team of brilliant scientists to work with. Think of what you could accomplish. I appreciate the offer, Minho said carefully, but I am happy here. Of course you would need to bring your research with you, Captain Kang added. All of it, including the prototype device and any notes you have made. Minho felt a chill run down his spine. This was not really an offer. It was a demand disguised as an opportunity. What if I prefer to stay here and continue my work independently? He asked. The 4 agents exchanged glances. Lieutenant Yu adjusted his glasses and smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Mr. Kim, I think you misunderstand the situation, Commander Cho said. Technology like yours has implications for galactic security. It cannot be allowed to remain in private hands without proper oversight. Oversight. The Council needs to ensure that such powerful technology is not misused. Imagine what could happen if this device fell into the wrong hands. It could be turned into a weapon or used for espionage or sold to hostile governments. Sergeant Shin nodded. We have seen what happens when advanced technology is not properly controlled. Entire star systems have been destroyed. Minho realized that these people had not come to offer him a job. They had come to take his work away from him, and probably to take him away too, whether he wanted to go or not. I need time to think about this, he said. Of course, Commander Cho replied. We will be staying at the colony's guest quarters for a few days. But do not take too long to decide. The Council does not like to wait. After they left, Minho sat in his shop feeling sick to his stomach. He had created the Visor to help Yuna, but now it had attracted the attention of people who wanted to turn it into something else entirely. The next morning, Yuna visited his shop as she did every day. But as soon as she put on the visor, she became agitated. "There are people watching us," she said. 4 of them positioned around the building. "They have devices that are scanning everything inside the shop." Minho looked out the windows but saw nothing unusual. "Are you sure?" "I can see their equipment. It glows with a specific frequency that I have learned to recognize. They are recording everything we say and do." That evening, Commander Cho returned to the shop, this time alone. "Have you made your decision, Mr. Kim?" he asked. "I have," Minho replied. "I want to stay here and continue helping people like Yuna. I will share my research freely with anyone who wants to use it for medical purposes, but I will not give it to people who want to turn it into a weapon." Commander Cho's expression did not change, but his voice became colder. "That is unfortunate. I was hoping we could do this the easy way." "What is the hard way?" "Tomorrow morning we will be taking you and your research into protective custody. For your own safety, of course. There are dangerous people in the galaxy who would kill to get their hands on what you have created." "And if I refuse to go?" Commander Cho smiled, and this time it was definitely not friendly. "Mr. Kim, you seem to think you have a choice in this matter. Let me be clear, you do not. One way or another, you and your technology are coming with us. The only question is whether you walk onto our ship willingly or whether we carry you." After he left, Minho knew he had to warn the colony. Whatever these people were planning, it was not going to be good for anyone who tried to protect him. He also knew that running would not be easy. The 4 agents were clearly professionals and they had resources he could not match. But he had one advantage they might not expect. He was human, and humans had a reputation for being stubborn and unpredictable. Throughout galactic history, other species had learned not to underestimate what humans could do when they were determined to protect something they cared about. Tomorrow, he would find out if that reputation was deserved. Minho woke up before dawn and immediately knew something was wrong. His shop was too quiet. The normal sounds of the early morning market were missing, and he could not hear the usual traffic in the streets. He looked out his window and saw why. The 4 agents had positioned themselves at key points around his building during the night. They were not hiding anymore. Commander Cho stood directly across the street, clearly visible and waiting. Minho grabbed his emergency pack and the spare visor he had built as a backup. He had prepared for this possibility, creating escape routes through the maintenance tunnels that connected the older buildings in his district. But as he moved toward the hidden entrance to the tunnels, Yuna appeared at his back door. "Do not go that way," she whispered urgently. "There is another one waiting in the tunnels. A woman with many weapons." Minho realized that Sergeant Shin had already found his escape route. These people were more thorough than he had expected. "How did you get here without them seeing you?" he asked. "I came through the air vents in the building next door. My grandfather taught me to move quietly, and with the visor I could see where all of them were positioned." Yuna was wearing the original visor and scanning the area around them constantly. "The one with glasses is on the roof across the street. He has equipment that can track electronic devices. The woman leader is watching the front door. The commander is coordinating everything from the street." "We need to warn the colony," Minho said. "My grandfather is already doing that. He sent messages to all the community leaders during the night." As if summoned by her words, they heard sounds of activity in the streets. Doors were opening and people were talking in urgent voices. The agents had probably expected to take Minho quietly, but now the entire colony knew what was happening. "We have to move," Yuna said. "They are getting ready to force their way in." She led him through a route he never would have found on his own. Using her enhanced vision, she could see exactly where each agent was positioned and guide him through blind spots in their surveillance. They made it 3 blocks before Lieutenant Yu spotted them. "Target is moving east on Market Street," they heard him say into his communication device within minutes. All 4 agents were pursuing them through the winding streets of the colony. Minho was grateful that Yuna knew the area so well. She led him through alleys, across rooftops, and through buildings he had never noticed before. "Left here," she whispered, pulling him into a narrow passage between 2 shops. "How do you know where to go?" he asked. "I can see their heat signatures through the walls. Right now they are moving toward the main square, but they do not know we turned here." For 2 hours they played a deadly game of hide-and-seek through New Sol Colony. Every time the agents seemed to be closing in, Yuna would spot them with her enhanced vision and guide Minho away from danger. But the agents were professionals, and they had technology of their own. Gradually, they were learning the colony's layout and cutting off more and more escape routes. "We cannot keep running forever," Minho said as they crouched behind some shipping containers in the industrial district. "I know, but look around you. Do you see what is happening?" Minho looked and realized that the colony's residents were not just watching the chase. They were actively helping. Human colonists were giving false directions to the agents, blocking streets with their vehicles, and creating distractions whenever Minho and Yuna needed to move. Even more surprising, the alien residents were helping too. A group of Valari traders had used their natural speed to spread word about the agents' real intentions. A family of Corvani engineers had disabled several surveillance devices the agents had placed around the colony. "Why are they helping us?" Minho asked. "Because you helped me," Yuna replied simply, "and because people do not like bullies no matter what species they are." Elder Kale appeared beside them, moving with the silent grace that came from decades of military training. "The colony leaders have made a decision," he said quietly. "We are not going to let these agents take you." "This could cause trouble with the Galactic Council," Minho warned. "Let them come," Elder Kale said grimly. "New Sol Colony has been independent for 15 years. We did not come to the edge of space just to let government agents kidnap our friends." As the day wore on, the chase became more desperate. The agents realized they were not just pursuing one person anymore, but fighting an entire community. Commander Cho's polite manner disappeared, and his team began using more aggressive tactics. They tried to corner Minho in the warehouse district, but a group of human dock workers had set up obstacles that forced them to take a longer route. They attempted to trap him in the residential area, but Valari families had opened their homes to provide hiding places and escape routes. "This is getting out of hand," Captain Kang said during one of the brief moments when Minho could overhear their communications. "We should call for backup." "No," Commander Cho replied. 4 trained agents should be able to handle a bunch of colonists and 1 engineer. We just need to be smarter about this." That was when they made their mistake. Sergeant Shin suggested using Yuna as leverage. "If we capture the girl, the engineer will surrender to protect her." They set a trap in the market square, using scanning equipment to detect the Visor's electromagnetic signature. When Yuna and Minho entered the area, the agents moved in from all sides, but they had forgotten that Yuna could see their positions long before they could see her. "There are 12 colonists hiding in the shops around the square," she told Minho. "They are waiting for a signal." Elder Kale had planned an ambush of his own. When the agents revealed themselves and demanded surrender, they found themselves surrounded by angry colonists. These were not soldiers, but they were people who had built a new life on a dangerous frontier world. They knew how to fight when they needed to. "You have 2 choices," Elder Kale announced from his position on a balcony overlooking the square. "You can return to your ship and leave our colony, or you can explain to the Galactic Council why 4 elite agents were defeated by a group of shopkeepers and farmers, Commander." Cho looked around at the circle of determined faces and realized that his mission had failed. The colonists were not going to be intimidated, and using force against civilians would create the kind of incident that even the Galactic Council would have trouble explaining. "This is not over," he said to Minho. "Yes, it is," Minho replied, "because I am about to make sure everyone in the galaxy knows exactly what you tried to do here." That evening, using the colony's communication array, Minho sent a detailed report to every major news network in the sector. He explained how he had built the Visor to help a blind girl, and how the Galactic Council had tried to steal his work and kidnap him. More importantly, he announced that he was releasing all of his research freely to anyone who wanted to use it. The plans for the Visor, along with detailed instructions for building and calibrating it, were now available to every species in the galaxy. "No one should have to be blind when technology exists to help them," he said in his broadcast, "and no government should be able to control medical technology for their own purposes." By the time the 4 agents returned to their ship, the story was spreading across the galaxy. The Galactic Council would have a lot of explaining to do. As Minho watched their ship disappear into space, he felt both relief and pride. He had learned something important about what it meant to be human. When faced with injustice, humans did not just accept it. They fought back, and they brought their friends with them. The news of what happened at New Sol Colony spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within 3 days, Minho's story was being discussed on every major planet and space station. Scientists were downloading his research files and studying his methods. Medical centers were beginning to build their own versions of the eye, Visor for patients who needed help with vision problems, but not everyone was happy. About these developments, the Galactic Council was facing serious criticism for the first time in decades. Questions were being asked about their secret technology assessment division and their methods of acquiring new innovations. Several member worlds were demanding investigations into other cases where the Council might have overstepped their authority. Commander Tae-young, Cho found himself recalled to the Council's headquarters on Centura Prime, where he faced a panel of angry officials. How did you manage to turn a simple technology acquisition into a public relations disaster? Demanded Council Member Vex, a stern Altarian with silver skin and multiple arms. The situation was more complex than our initial report suggested, Cho replied. The colonists were organized and determined. They treated our legitimate enforcement action as an attack on their community. Legitimate? Councilmember Torres, a human representative, looked furious. You tried to kidnap a civilian engineer and steal his research. How is that legitimate? The technology posed a potential security risk, Cho insisted. Enhanced vision devices could be weaponized or used for espionage. By that logic, we should confiscate every pair of binoculars in the galaxy, Torres shot back. The hearing continued for hours, but the outcome was already clear. The Council could not defend what had happened at New Sol Colony. Public opinion was strongly against them, and several major worlds were threatening to leave the Council if similar incidents occurred again. Meanwhile, back on New Sol Colony, Minho was dealing with a different kind of problem. His small repair shop had become a pilgrimage site for beings from across the galaxy who wanted to see where the famous Visor had been created. Scientists, engineers, and medical professionals were arriving daily, hoping to learn from his work. I never wanted to be famous, he complained to Hyun as they watched another group of researchers set up equipment in the street outside his shop. Fame is not always a choice, she replied, but you can choose what to do with it. That evening, Elder Kale brought news that would change everything again. The Galactic Council has sent a formal apology, he announced. They are also proposing a new treaty regarding medical technology development. What kind of treaty? Minho asked. They want to establish what they are calling the New Sol Accords. Any medical technology that is freely shared for humanitarian purposes would be protected from government seizure. Developers would retain the right to control how their inventions are used, but they would also be encouraged to make them available to anyone who needs help. Yuna, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. What do you think, Minho? Would this prevent what happened to us from happening to other inventors? Minho considered the question carefully. He had learned not to trust the Council's promises easily, but he also recognized an opportunity to create lasting change. I think it could work, he said finally, but only if we make sure the treaty has real enforcement mechanisms and if independent colonies like ours have a voice in how it is implemented. Over the next several weeks, representatives from dozens of worlds came to New Sol Colony to discuss the proposed accords. The small frontier settlement became the center of galactic attention as diplomats, scientists, and activists debated how to balance innovation with security. Minho found himself in the strange position of being a key negotiator, despite having no political experience. But he discovered that his engineering background had taught him useful skills for this kind of work. He knew how to break complex problems down into smaller pieces and how to find solutions that satisfied multiple requirements. The fundamental issue is trust, he explained during one of the negotiating sessions. Governments do not trust individuals to develop technology responsibly, and individuals do not trust governments to use technology ethically. We need to create a system that addresses both concerns. The solution they developed was typically human in its simplicity and complexity. The New Sol Accords established a network of independent review boards that would evaluate new technologies for both their humanitarian potential and their security risks. Inventors could voluntarily submit their work for review, and if it was approved for humanitarian use, it would be protected from government seizure. In return, inventors who participated in the program would receive funding and resources to further develop their technologies. They would also be connected with a network of researchers and medical professionals who could help them refine their work, and make it available to people who needed it. The Accords also established the principle that medical technology should be freely available to anyone who needed it, regardless of their species, economic status, or political situation. When the treaty was finally signed, representatives from over 200 worlds were present. The ceremony took place in New Sol Colony's main square, in the same place where the colonists had confronted the enforcement agents just months earlier. "This is a good day for the galaxy," Elder Kale said as he watched the various diplomats and officials shake hands and pose for pictures. "It is a beginning," Minho replied. "Whether it turns into something better depends on what people do with it." Yuna, wearing her visor and watching the crowd with her enhanced vision, smiled. "I can see the hope in people," she said. "It glows differently than other emotions, brighter and warmer." As the months passed, the Accords proved to be more successful than anyone had expected. Inventors from across the galaxy began sharing their medical research freely, knowing that it would be protected from misuse. New treatments for diseases and disabilities were being developed at an unprecedented rate. The Visor technology itself was adapted for dozens of different species and conditions. Engineers created versions that could help beings with hearing problems, movement disorders, and neurological conditions. Each adaptation taught researchers something new about how different species processed sensory information. Minho's own life had changed dramatically, but in ways he had not expected. Instead of becoming a wealthy celebrity, he had chosen to remain in his small repair shop on New Sol Colony. But now his work focused on training other engineers and helping them develop their own humanitarian technologies. "Why did you not take any of the offers to join major research institutions?" a visiting journalist asked him. "Because the best solutions come from people who understand the problems personally," Minho replied. "I was able to help Yuna Bikay